All right, Cleveland Browns draft recap. So the Cleveland Browns, they did have a draft, believe it or not. If you were someone who only watched the first round, you might be surprised to learn that yes, they do draft. They just didn't have a first rounder, didn't have a top 50 pick at all. In fact, of course, still paying for the Deshaun Watson trade. So I think that one thing I would have liked to see the Browns do a bit more of is try to make some trades to get more picks, like what the Rams would do year after year, right? Never having first round picks, but always trading back and accumulating pick after pick after pick, getting comp picks, getting, that kind of stuff. Browns only 6 picks as well. So no first rounder, just 6 picks. That's not ideal, but I thought they did a pretty good job with their 6 picks for what it's worth. So, Michael Hall is an interesting player at pick 54. Maybe not my favorite selection they made, just because he is 280 pounds, which is always listen, there's very few players at the NFL level who are that weight. I think Aaron Donald was around there. I think he was a little bit heavier, but okay, every now and then you get someone like that, but usually you like guys who are either 300 pounds or 250. That's a concern. That being said, does have really good pass rush analytics. I know analytics are something that the Browns front office pays close attention to. So, in fact, his pass rush win rate is 18.3%. So for a guy who played on the inside, that's absurd. And that's why they drafted him. A little bit of concern with the weight and that stuff. I do think it's fair to say that, listen, at the NFL level, some of your moves won't work as well. It is, I get that at the end of the day, you want guys who, win, but there's still some concern there, I think. Zach Zinter was picked at 85. Also, I should shut up the chart next to me. Number all the way to the left is when the player was drafted. Next number over is when they were projected to be drafted according to the consensus big board, and then their name and position. For a guy like Zinter, I'm not sure exactly what it is that they're huge fans of. As I said, the Browns do tend to pay attention to analytics. His analytics aren't super strong. Here's what I think they like is I think they like his power, and they feel like they can figure out a way to, figure out ways to kind of get the athleticism down, maybe get the footwork down. Maybe they feel like they can coach that up. Maybe a coach says, "Oh, I know what this issue is. I can fix it." In which case, okay, cool. Is a bit of a reach as well. So I said I like this draft by the Browns, but you might be wondering why, because you're not crazy about the first 2 picks. Again, I'm not saying this was an amazing draft or anything, but I think there was some strongness to it, and I think some of these later picks I really thought were good, making the most out of usually picks that a lot of times teams spend on special teamers. I mean, we're seeing at 156 with Jamari Thrash, which is a great name for a wide receiver, by the way, a last name of Thrash. Not the biggest guy, 6 feet tall, 190 pounds, and not the best athlete either. So he is someone that is going to fall for those reasons. But I just think he's a smart player who can find ways to get open. And there's something to be said in that. At the end of the day, I do think there is, to some degree, we can sit here and say all we want about, and even what I said about Michael Hall of there's these, the size, all that kind of stuff. At the wide receiver position, though, it really doesn't matter that much. If you're winning, you're winning, and they could definitely use another depth wide receiver. You have Amari Cooper, you have Elijah Moore and Jerry Jeudy, but I think they could use some more guys there. I don't know how confident you feel in Elijah Moore or Jerry Jeudy there, but you got Thrash, who can hopefully at least come in and be a quality depth player, be a contributor for that team. I think he can do that. You then have Nathaniel Watson, the linebacker out of Mississippi State, who is 6'2", 230, also not a great athlete, which is kind of what you are maybe concerned about. But again, there's a lot of value in a linebacker who just knows where to be and knows how to get into position pretty consistently. So he did that pretty well at Mississippi State, and I think that a lot of people are going to be, again, maybe turned off by the fact that he isn't a super great athlete, but the Browns are a team that they're going to pay more attention to, well, how good are you right now? I don't think they're adding him to be a starter. They have Jordan Hicks and Jeremiah Owusu-Koramoah, but I think maybe if they want a third linebacker, you have Devin Bush there as well, but he could be a good depth piece. And again, at the linebacker position, pick 200, you wonder if he's going to be a special teamer as well. totally something I could see happening. And then you have Miles Harden, which it's interesting because I'm recording this one pretty quickly after I recorded my Jaguars draft review, and the Jaguars just went after complete athletes across the board. The Browns are doing the opposite. Harden also not a super athlete, which at the corner position maybe could concern some people, which is probably part of why he falls to pick 227. But ran a 4.5, so he has enough speed to work. It's not the ideal speed, but he has enough speed to work, I would say. And again, is someone who has done a really good job at understanding his assignment, know how to win as a corner. It's just if Tyreek Hill's on him, he's losing. Like it's just that simple. But again, for guys who you're kind of drafting to be depth pieces, like I think I would kind of rather have a guy like Harden, who I can at least trust isn't going to make a fool out of himself and isn't going to completely get himself out of position, than a guy who might be athletic, but it doesn't matter because they don't know what they're doing and they haven't had hardly any NFL reps, and then a good receiver can just annihilate them. Harden, I think, has a little bit more of if he gets thrown into the fire, he won't get burned that much potentially. So then you have Joan Briggs. Joan Briggs is the last selection, the sixth selection, and he's another guy where you look at on paper, you might be saying, well, he doesn't seem great. Because interior defensive lineman who doesn't have the best analytics as of late, but the thing is, so he played at both edge and as an interior defensive lineman. Even though he's 300 pounds, that's kind of what he did. And when he was against a tackle, it did not go as well for him as when he was just playing as a traditional interior defensive lineman. So the numbers aren't great last season, but if you isolate the numbers just to what he was doing as an interior defensive lineman, it's actually pretty good. So again, will it be good enough for him to be a starter? I don't know, but I'm going to take a chance on a guy like this at pick 243 and just see what he can do. So it's a really unique draft. I feel like sometimes I see teams make certain picks and I'm like, man, I don't even know what you're thinking with those. None of these picks I feel that way, with the exception of, I guess, the Zach Center one, which I can still understand, but that's the kind of the one I'm a little confused about. But every other pick, really, I fully get the logic behind, even if it's not the selection I would have made. And a lot of these are the selection I would have made, especially these later picks I think are really smart. So yeah, again, this isn't going to be a franchise-changing draft by the Browns, most likely, unless a couple of these guys do way better than we think they could, right? But could it be a good draft? Yeah, this could end up being like you're getting some players who can come in and contribute. I made the Rams comparison, but I'll make it again because they traded multiple first-round picks for a quarterback as well, right? And part of how they were able to win a Super Bowl, everyone misses the second part of it. Everyone talks about with the Rams, they traded first-round picks for stars. Yes, and then what did they do? They were able to get so many contributors late in rounds to just come in and be a contributor. Like Greg Gaines is the perfect example of, he was like a fifth-round pick that was just like a solid defensive tackle for them for 4 years with cheap production, and then he goes somewhere else. Like, being able to get a steady flow of that is how you can, that's how the Ravens are consistently good, because they have so many guys like this, and that's how the Browns have been consistently good, getting guys later in rounds to be contributors. I think they did it again here, so really strong draft, despite the fact that they only had 6 picks and no first rounder. That's just how I see it. What do you think? Let me know in the comments below. Always love hearing from you, and of course, as always, thanks for watching.